Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our live virtual online roadshow with Fury Gold Mines today. And you see already here Mike Timmins, the CEO of the company, and Michael Henrichsen, who's the Senior Vice President of Exploration. Good morning, gentlemen, to Canada. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect, great. So let's investors checking in here, and also you know me all, but I say it also as we have maybe some new people in here. My name is Jochen Steiger. I'm the CEO of Swiss Resource Capital and also the chief editor and founder of Commodity TV and Rohstoff-TV. Very warm welcome here also from Switzerland, from St. Gallen in my home place. And yeah, we look really forward again to a great presentation of Fury Gold. A lot of things happened in the last 6-8 weeks, of course. Good news, good drill results. Before we start with the presentation, let me do some legal remarks here. First of all, we are fully complying to European and Great Britain and Swiss data security law, so nobody can see each other, nobody can read any names nor emails. Also, as we want to have, after approximately 20-25 minutes of presentation, a very lively Q&A discussion, please use the chat function and type your questions into that, and I will, of course, moderate this in the best order and interest of all of us, that we get the most information out of the two gentlemen. And of course, we want to roast them a little bit. That would be good. Yeah. So despite the fact that gold just went heavily down in the last hour, about $40–45, I just heard that Russia will liquidate all the dollar holdings in their sovereign wealth fund. So that created a little bit of noise in the dollar markets, in the currency markets. But despite of that, I still think gold, silver, precious metals are a super safe haven. And also, of course, companies like Fury Gold with such fantastic projects in Canada are absolutely worth to be considered and to have a look on. And I think we have already a lot of shareholders in here now. And also, I should say, I'm a shareholder of the company too, just to mention that for disclaimer reasons. Yes, so I would suggest I set up the presentation, and Mike and Michael, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Johan, and thank you everyone for participating. We really appreciate everyone's time, despite gold doing what it's doing today. As Johan said, we're going to have a pretty action-packed hour. We'll go through we'll do a corporate update, and then we'll have a bit of a Q&A. Joining me, obviously, is Michael Henrichsen. He's our SVP Exploration, technical oversight, strategy, and then running all of our tactics on the ground. I'm going to be making some forward-looking statements. I'm going to be making so many forward-looking statements that we have to have 2 slides on it. That was for you. That was for you, Johan.
I love it.
Yeah. We've been a company now for about 8 months, and the strategy, the business approach, the tactics, and everything that we're taking and how we conduct ourselves really hasn't changed, and our goals haven't changed. And in fact, it's only gotten better with the company, right? So from a business perspective, from a technical perspective, and as you're going to see, Mike and I kind of taking you through what we've been doing, things continue to get better. All the ingredients are there, right? And everything starts and stops with people. And I think that we have the right people, certainly on our board. We have the right people in our management team. High grade platform, again, in a rising gold price environment, other than today. If we have that outlook out 3 to 5 years from now, there's geopolitical risk and diversity into better countries is really going to be a focus for people, certainly. And you want to be in Canada. You want to be exploring high grade gold projects. You want to have options to do things, right? And you want to be positioned with an attractive valuation given all of that growth that we see ahead. For those of you that don't know where the assets are, we're focused in Canada, as we've said. It's Nunavut, Quebec, and BC. 3.7 million ounces across the platform at 7.3 corporate average resource grade. So it's a nice high grade deposits that we have the luxury of drilling. You can think of them in a bit of a pipeline. So Eau Claire is our lead asset. I'm not going to say it's the flagship asset. It's the lead asset. In Quebec, Central James Bay, I can drive there from my house here in Toronto, so it's a nice setting to work, and obviously a very supported place in the James Bay with all the infrastructure that's there. And we're going to talk about that. Right behind that is Homestake Ridge. It really anchors the homestake trend. We're contiguous there with a company called Dolly Varden and Hecla. So lots of action over the summer planned for that part of the BC's Golden Triangle. And then, of course, our favorite project is Committee Bay. We have a 300-kilometer gold belt. It's about 150 kilometers north of Agnico's operations there, with Amaruq and Meadowbank. All the geological work really behind us at that project. And when we go up every year now, it's going to be a very focused exploration. Capital structure really remains intact from the last time we spoke to this group. 118 million shares outstanding, options and warrants, the dilutables coming in from both sides. We have 5 analysts covering at the moment, and this was a resumption of coverage, and with a consensus buy target of about 350 Canadian, 290 US. We are, excuse me, we are about 84% retail based. A good chunk of that is obviously a long-term support of high net worth that have supported the group for certainly for a long time. You see Newmont owning 6.5%. That is a residual ownership from Goldcorp's toehold investment into Orin Resources back some years ago. Price performance, we had 2 periods of outperformance earlier in the year. Gold didn't do us a lot of favors in Q1, but that was really on getting our first results out, right? And I think that we've been plagued a little bit by Q1 long assay turnarounds. We were being quoted 70 days at the beginning of the year, so you can't really run a business waiting 70 days to find out what you're drilling. And so we've switched labs now. It's 3 to 4 week turnaround, and so you're going to see more and more drill results and news come forward. And I think that's what the kind of the wait and see is all about, with respect to our share price, our valuation, and where we see things going soon. From a people perspective, we talked a little bit about it. Right people in place. Mike is on the call. Mike is obviously on the call with us here. Lindsay is our CFO she was most recently the controller at Goldcorp. So I mean, we're trying to stack the deck here in our favor with respect to quality, with respect to putting a simple, a high quality, simple business together, right? Recent additions to the board, I would say, since we last spoke, were Saga Williams, who's Indigenous. She is a council member at the Curve Lake First Nation here, just outside of Toronto, and she also chairs our Indigenous Relations Committee at the board level. So this is where we take all of our Indigenous engagement and Indigenous relationships to the board level, and I think that's where it needs to be dealt with. And then Tim Clark. Tim Clark is a sales professional based in Boston. Over half of our shareholder base is in the U.S. So is it good for a Canadian company of our size to have U.S. representation on the board, and certainly Tim comes in and provides that for us. Bottom of the slide is really a first taste of what we're doing on the ESG side. When you look at ESG, it's obviously a very important window into people, I think, right? So it's very easy for the investor to see what we're doing technically, right? Like, we're very, very transparent with respect to what's happening, the technical information on our website, the news releases. If people care to carefully review news releases, it's all there, right? There's really nothing held back. You have a great window. ESG does the same thing, right? And whenever we get to showcase some of the training that we do, or the engagement that we do, how we respond to COVID, what we do with our First Nation partners, it's really good for investors to come and see what type of people we are, right? You really get to look at it helps with the trustworthiness. It helps with knowing how we react to things, what type of people we are, right? Because you really get, you only get some dimensions. You don't get the full dimension. And more you're going to see us particularly on the social media, as we start to ramp up our business. You're going to see this more and more. It's very important to us, and it's very, very important to the tier one institutions, right? When we look to kind of institutionalize Fury as we grow the company, it is a differentiator to be able to articulate all of the non-technical things we're doing in our business. Now to the projects. We're going to do the focus today on Eau Claire, right? This is the project that we've been the most active, but of course, in the appendix of this deck, we have a lot to say about BC, and we have even more to say about Committee Bay. So if there's questions on that, Johan, that's on the other two assets, we're more than happy to go back and forth on the slides and walk people through it. Eau Claire, as everyone knows, has a quite smart positioning in the central James Bay region of Quebec, roads, airports, and power. I can't think of a better place, to be honest, to be advancing a mineral exploration. We have all the infrastructure in place and next to no population, right? The closest communities are obviously the Quebec Cree community, who are obviously partners with us on various levels at the project, and we're very, very happy to benefit from their support. We're about 50 kilometers south of Eleanor, of Newmont's Eleanor mine. So of course that's a fully functioning, large-scale mining operation, right? So fully serviced. So we have all of the services there. We based, going back 8 months. We based the acquisition of East Main on the Eau Claire's PEA and the land position, but particularly we like the resource given the geological setting, right? 60% of it in the measured indicated category, all at high grade, what really gave us some comfort when we were doing the diligence. The first exploration program, right? We're about halfway through the first 50,000 meters that we want to do at Eau Claire. We've done a lot of things, right? And the design of that program was to answer one question: can we get Eau Claire from the 80,000 ounces a year that was contemplated in the PEA to 150 to 200,000 ounces a year, right? This was, I for one, as a shareholder, would like an answer to that question as soon as possible, and that's how we designed the program. So there was very deliberate drilling outside of the resource, right? So we're deliberately drilling outside of resource blocks just to demonstrate to people that this thing can grow. And we've been very, very successful at hitting high grade. Not too long ago, we put out, a top 5 hole out of 900 holes that have been drilled into this deposit. So that, I think that's saying something. And we're pretty excited about that. We're going to be going back to the deposit drilling for sure. We've outlined an entirely new horizon, which is the Snake Lake horizon that Mike's going to talk about, right? So this is a parallel zone, which we believe runs the entire length of Eau Claire, which is not 1 kilometer. It's probably 4 to 4.5 kilometers for both of those horizons. So lots to drill over the next 24 to 36 months. And then there's the Hinge Zone that we're going to talk about today. So if there's anywhere, everyone loves the Hinge Zone, Johan, right? You know this. And so if there's anywhere at a gold project where you could get the pooling of fluids, it's at a Hinge. And so I'm not going to steal any of Mike's thunder on this. It's very exciting that we've identified this from first principles, which makes it even sweeter, right? So if the assays come back as excited as we are in a few weeks from now, it should be very exciting. And then multiple trends along multiple targets along the trend, as we say here, and we're going to outline one for you today, which I think is kind of the most mature of our regional targets. With that, maybe what I'll do is I'll pass it over to Mike. He can kind of bridge the gap over the last few months, and then where he would like to see the project move forward.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. So the approach, of course, that we take here is we take the approach of drilling 3 or 4 holes into numerous targets early. It's time value exploration concept, where you're trying to get an idea of where the center of mass for growth is going to be as quickly as you can. And that's what we've done. And as Mike said, we've really outlined a couple of very exciting things that we feel can expand, Eau Claire to a double. So what you're looking at here is, you can see on the left-hand side, the Eau Claire deposit. You can see targets A and B. That's the down plunge extension. We've got some good results in there. Snake Lake has been a great surprise for us in terms of how the grades that we've intercepted and just the dimensions that we've outlined for potential. It's been fantastic. And then, of course, we've got the western targets on the left. As Mike has said, there's a Hinge Zone that we are currently drilling that we're quite excited about. And we'll sort of take you through that period of how we view it as explorationists to really grow this asset and sort of change the game for Eau Claire entirely. So what you're seeing here is a similar thing, but of course in a vertical section. And so obviously the hotter the color that you see there, the higher the grade. You can see the Eau Claire deposit. You can see Snake Lake off to the right there, but it actually sits in behind Eau Claire, and we'll go all the way in behind Eau Claire. And we've really started to demonstrate to ourselves that, hey, this thing's got space. It's got room. There could be another Eau Claire sitting at Snake Lake, which is extremely exciting. Target B, we've got some initial results from there that have looked quite good in terms of expanding our resource. We definitely believe that we are going to have a bigger portion of the resource sit out towards the east there. And then you see Snake Lake Deeps. This was something we were originally drilling to see if we could extend Eau Claire, but what actually happened is we got into Snake Lake horizon and went, hey, wait a second, this is extraordinary in that we were taking 1 kilometer step outs, either down plunge or down dip, and we were hitting, high grade gold mineralization, which brought us to the idea of drilling just underneath some of the historical drilling. And then all of a sudden we got into new zones, we got some good grades. And again, we really strongly believe that Snake Lake is going to be a big part of our resource expansion moving forward at the project in general. So if we can continue to the next one, please. Thanks. Obviously, that's the big picture. How do you get Eau Claire to a double? Where's your room to do this? And we've gone through that. But at the same time, there's the meat and potatoes approach, as I call it. You get in close to the deposit, you drill 50 meters outside of the resource blocks, and you get 6 meters of 11.5 grams or 7 meters of 23 grams. Good things happen. Ounces are being built. That is really important to us moving forward. And we're going to continue to do that, sort of just incrementally grow this as we look for the big picture, the double. And you can see we right now have a target area that we want to start infilling. It's about 220 meters. That's offsetting high grade. We're just going to keep plugging away at that. And, we want to be that boring company that just continues to put out good results as we've been doing, in our near deposit drilling. And, we can all take a felt pen and draw some new resource blocks there in our hits that were coming outside of the known resource. So, it's a really nice story in that way. Meat and potatoes, and then the big picture. And that's what we want to focus on both at the same time. Okay, so let's go through some of those exploration results in some details. What you're looking at here is a vertical cross section, 700 meters away from the deposit. And that red shape you see there, that's the resource. That's the 1.3 million ounces. We're 700 meters away from that. And you can see we got some good results, 15 grams over a meter, meter and a half of 8.83. That's going to dilute down over a minimum mining width of 2 meters to plus 7 grams. It's going to make it into the resource. Sits perfectly on the Eau Claire structure. But there was a surprise in there. And we let one of those drill holes go into the Snake Lake horizon where it hit the sediments in brown versus the volcanics in green. And what happened? It was a meter and a half of 6.4. Totally unexpected. We said, hey, what's this? This is 1.1 kilometers away from the nearest drilling at Snake Lake, a huge step out. And we said, okay, well, we have to continue to see what happens at Snake Lake. And that's exactly what we did based on that early learning, that early exploration look that we gave Eau Claire. And so if we go to the next slide, This is Snake Lake, but now we're looking at a longitudinal section. And you can see on the bottom left-hand side that 1.5 meters is 6.4 that we were just talking about. And if you move 500 meters over to the east, half a meter of 94 grams, multi-ounce material with coarse grain gold, 850 meters away from the nearest drill hole above. Now we're talking space, we're talking room, we're talking the ability to really say, hey, listen, Snake Lake is a horizon that can be equal to Eau Claire. We need to get some drill holes into that. We came in with 3 drill holes with a little higher up there that you see. These were 150 to 300 meter step outs, and we got some good grades. You know, at that sediment volcanic contact, 2 meters is 7.5 grams. Again, you know, going to make it into a resource. 5 meters at 2.85 in a brand new zone situated between the Snake Lake and Eau Claire structures. This was something extraordinary to us. We didn't expect this at all. Had half a meter and nearly 20 grams in there. There was visible gold. All the holes that we drilled here at Snake Lake had visible coarse grain gold. Now, for us, when we look at new horizons, coarse grain gold, you know, step outs over 1 kilometer with only 5 drill holes into this thing, that's where our level of excitement really sort of starts, you know, coming, because it's just so early for us. And we know if we continue to drill here with the results like this, with the first 5 holes, you know, we're feeling very confident that we're going to be able to build a picture here that's going to be very meaningful for the project going forward. So we'll continue on to the Snake Lake cross section. So now you're looking at it in a cross section, and what you can see there is that unit, the brown unit, the sediments, the green unit, the volcanics, that's the Snake Lake horizon. But you'll also see a new horizon where you see those pink rocks between Eau Claire and Snake Lake. And what I can tell you there is that's the exact same geology as the Eau Claire deposit. It looks like a repeat. We got into it, we were like, wait a second, what's this? Quartz feldspar porphyry dikes in mafic volcanics, exactly like Eau Claire, 20-meter wide zone of veining. It was very strong. There was coarse grain gold in it. We got some good wide intercepts, you know, that 5 meters of 2.8 grams. We got the half a meter at 20. We see the grade. We see some width to it. We need to keep drilling. Maybe there's another Eau Claire that's going to sneak in between those 2 structures that we know about. So I think when you get these surprises so early, that's where you kind of say to yourself, the results are going to come, right? I mean, that's really, the geology has been extremely good as we've been exploring. And that's where we just feel, you know, that need to just continue to drill these structures to build that bigger picture for our investors. Okay, now we're going to switch a little bit, and there's a couple of views here to take a look at. These are the western targets. The image on the left, you're looking from above and you're looking down the axis of this fold. It's just a nice fold, simple as that. And the red is the resource, obviously, and we feel that, in fact, this deposit actually might keep going to the west. The view from our predecessors was it was finished, there was no more room, that was it. We took a different approach. We just went back to first principles, did a little bit of science, and realized that the main target horizon that hosts Eau Claire wasn't drilled on the western side. And we said, well, we got to go drill that, clear as day. So if we go to the next slide, we can show you this. So without getting into, you know, a ton of science here, we just looked at the chemistry of these volcanic rocks. Before, it was just viewed of just basalts. Hundreds and hundreds of meters of basalts, and that was it. We took a different approach. We took a look at some of the details of the chemistry and realized there were 2 units. The green unit is an iron-rich basalt. The blue unit is a magnesium-rich basalt. And the iron-rich basalts are gonna be more reactive to basically precipitate gold. And if you look at the right-hand side of the image, you can see that the resource in red basically sits on the contact of the 2 or into the iron-rich unit. Okay, great. Then you go to the left-hand side of this image. This is the western margin of the deposit. And you can see all of the historical drilling was in that blue horizon, didn't hit the target horizon. That hinge zone's just sitting there, never being drilled. And we thought, this is amazing. We got to get some drill holes into it. And what you see there are those first 3 holes that we're actually currently drilling. I can tell you the geology looks pretty promising. Obviously, we got to get the lab to tell us just exactly how excited we should be. But you can imagine, we're talking about a new horizon with multiple structures that have got high grade. Now we're talking about extending this potentially to the west with the target horizon that's never been drilled in that Hinge Zone. So, I think the message that I want to convey to our investors is, listen, early days on our exploration, we really like what we see. We see great opportunities to the east, to the west on new horizons. And I think as we continue to drill, we're going to continue to have good results and just build this picture out and really make Eau Claire what it should be, which is, as Mike's vision is, let's get this to 150 to 200,000 ounce scenario in terms of future production. But the exploration that we're doing, I think, is going to drive us towards that outcome. And then you got to look at the bigger picture. We've just been talking, you can see Eau Claire and Snake Lake with the stars. That's all we've been talking about, this little area. And we've just had our geology updated by one of my former colleagues at Newmont. I consider her the world's best magnetics interpreter. And so she's given us this beautiful geologic framework with which to really expand our horizons and look at targets outside of just Snake Lake and Eau Claire. And you can see these red circles are areas that she's really delineated as go here. This is a complex zone of structures and units. And this is the kind of thing that, can really drive a new discovery. I want to tell you that all of her targets were picked with 0 information about gold. She just picks them, right? So it's just very scientific, very pure. And if we're going to take a look at Percival, with that star off to the eastern edge of this image. She picked Percival, and Percival was a discovery. And so we say to ourselves, well, what can Percival become? What do these targets mean to our investors? So let's go in and take a quick look at Percival. This is just a little bit of the change, just so you can see how we're upgrading things. On the top image, you can see the previous geologic framework. Not a lot of information here. On the bottom, this is the new information. You can see that there's a lot more details in there, and that's going to allow us to really target efficiently as we move forward. So also something to talk about here as we go towards Percival, something really important that I want to convey to our investors. There's 2 styles of mineralization. And when you're a geologist like me, who's been very fortunate to work around the world in some of the big gold camps, this is a super important factor. Different styles of mineralization tell you that there's a strong system in the region, right? So you've got veins at Eau Claire, but at Percival, you've got disseminated mineralization in breccias in a completely different unit. Okay, so what does that mean at the end of the day for our investors and for us who've got to do this exploration around Eau Claire? It means that we've got a good shot at expanding Percival, but also developing these new target ideas around the Eau Claire project in general. Okay, so we'll go to the next slide. And this is Percival. Okay, so some beautiful intercepts from our predecessors. We're talking about over 90 meters of 2 grams on surface with an internal interval of 9 meters of 6. And then you go down plunge, 8 meters of 7. And you keep going down plunge, 2 meters of 8.5. And it's actually a high grade scenario. And it can be expanded down plunge. It's in a fold again. It's got good stratigraphy. And we just say to ourselves, we've actually got to go and keep drilling here. I mean, what does Percival become? We don't know. But clearly it needs some additional drilling with grades like that and the widths that we see, 90 meters of a couple of grams, strong system. That's what I want to convey to our investors. There's lots more to come from our regional targeting. And if you look just to the right of where it says the Percival fold hinge, you can see there's another one, untested parallel fold hinge, same magnetic signature going down. We got to get some drill holes into this. What happens if that's another really good mineralized zone? 2 plunging ore chutes at Percival, high grades, big widths. Again, we're just scratching the surface on our regional targeting here. And so we're very excited come the summer to get some boots on the ground out here, advance to drill stage, and be drilling some of these regional targets later in the year here.
Great. Thanks, Mike. Maybe Mike and I can just take a few minutes, Johan, and just talk a little bit about the ESJV. So this is called the Eleanor South Joint Venture. It's a project that we don't talk about it a lot when we do these, but I thought that we would showcase it, that we're going into the summer and there's probably going to be a bit of a summer program. And so we currently have a joint venture with Newmont and another company called Azimut Resources. And so the three of us, we're the operator of that joint venture, and the three of us are planning to do some work over the summer. Mike, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, it's the land package right beside the Eleanor mine, so highly prospective. And I can tell you that 95% of the work on this project has been done where it says the Chichu deposit. There's a 2 million ounce deposit that basically sits on the ground where it says Sirius and into this property package, and it's low grade, 0.65 grams per ton. Lots of mineralization there. And I looked at this and I said, okay, well, that's great. Lots of drilling's been done, and yeah, it's big, and we can understand that. But what else is here? And so you can see all these nice little colorful circles. This is gold values in the till. And anything in pink is above 0.1 of a gram in till. That's a great number. And you can see that 5.5 kilometer long target of really good gold mineralization with multiple structures sitting there completely untested, never being drilled, never being looked at, never really being considered for a potential new discovery. And for me, as an explorationist, I look at that and I'm just like, we have to get here right away. So our summer plans, of course, will be to advance that area and to get the drill targets in shape, and then to proceed to drilling later in the year. But, certainly given the fact that you've got the multi-million ounce Eleanor mine to the north, you've got this other deposit just off, on the property and just to the north with Sirius, what can happen with a 5.5 kilometer golden till anomalies? The drill bit's going to tell us we got to get drilling.
Great. Thanks, Mike. And I would say, Johan, that's that's wrapping it up, right? I think that we've over the last 8 months and through all, obviously all the engagement that we've had with you and the group, has really been successful, right? The big part of the success so far, in my view, is just the unpackaging of Eau Claire and all the bits and pieces and going along trend, right? So I think Catalyst and the outlook going forward, with a behaving gold price going into the second half of the year, is certainly just more and more drill results coming out from us, right? I mean, we know we haven't been as newsy as we want. Again, that was that's part of the nature of this first program where we're kind of surveying across, right? But as we now start to focus in on the higher grade portions that we think can do the early adding of ounces, we're certainly going to be more newsy with respect to results. There's going to be summer news coming out for Homestake and what our plans are going to be for BC. We're going to do the same thing with Committee Bay as we go up there this summer to do some drilling. So, we have an exciting balance of the year for investors in 2021. And we're obviously happy to take questions.
Super, perfect. Thank you very much, Mike and Michael. I stopped that here. If needed, we can go back to it, no problem. So just let me check. Sorry for that. Okay, plans for Eleanor we have just discussed. What does it take to answer the question if Eau Claire reserve resource can double plus more for establishing the 200,000 ounces per year?
What does it mean? Say that again.
What does it take to answer the question if Eau Claire reserve resource can double plus more for establishing the 200,000 ounces?
Well, Mike will have his answer, but we can start with mine. What will have to happen? I think it's already happened for me, right? So the question is, can we see it, right? And for me, I think that I can see it. Where does that number, what does it take if I said, okay, what does it take to get that into a technical report? that's out in the market, well, that's probably going to take, 20 to 24 months of drilling, continuous drilling, right? In this type of setting, which I think is exactly what somebody with a high grade gold deposit is going to do in order to demonstrate growth, right? Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, totally in agreement. I think, what it takes is the ability to take some risk early, which is exactly what we've done. If we were just sitting here doing 25 to 50 meter step outs only, when are our investors going to know that it's going to be a double? I mean, it would take us years to do that. But when we take these aggressive steps and start hitting gold a kilometer away on horizons that have been, very lightly historically drilled, I think that's when you see it. You have the room to do it. And because you're hitting high grade, you say to yourself, okay, well, we just got to keep drilling here. And Mike's completely right. A couple of years of drilling and it gets there. I think too, it for me anyways, as an explorationist, it's not, when you're drilling like this and you're going into the unknown, it's not what you think you're going to hit. It's what surprises you. And I think that's the key for me. The surprises have been great, like a brand new zone between Snake Lake and Eau Claire. I mean, this is unbelievable to me, I mean, that's where you start going, wait a sec, there's way more to the story than we thought there was. And it's positive. And so that's when you get that momentum. And I've been around this kind of setting, near mine exploration for Newmont around the world. And it's those kinds of things, when they start happening early, that the results are going to come. And so I'm with Mike. I think it's like, we're seeing it, we're unpackaging it, we're demonstrating that early. So, I just say to our investors, stay tuned. More results coming, more surprises coming, no doubt, and also more grade. This is a high grade setting, and that's how you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is also a comment I see here in the chat line from an Italian investor. He's like exactly the same thing. Just be patient. We will have a lot of fun. I like that. But also, having said that, what you just explained, I think, Mike, you said that you have done so far 25,000 meters of the 50,000 meters, but we do also not have all the results back from the lab. So I could imagine that we still have, you still have to drill 25,000 meters. So we are not even halfway through it. So what would it mean in the context of this answer? What could you imagine when you keep on hitting what you have done now so far with the whole 50,000 meters? Would that mean that we have made a big step forward then for much higher resource then, or let's say to achieve this those production production thinking you want to have?
Yeah, I think you would. As we go, if we're going to go at the same gold grade tenor, right, and the same level of surprises and learning and identifying new zones, new lenses and horizons, if we continue to do that, which I think we will, the first step we'll arrive at is knowing where some of these more concentrated gold centers are within that horizon, right? And so we can focus on those, right? For example, our near deposit drilling is focused on the deepest eastern margin of Eau Claire, right? And that's a pod of mineralization that sits down there. It's 200,000 ounces at 12 grams, right? And so we're deliberately focused on that bottom high grade portion in order to expand it, right? And so if we have one of those at the Hinge Zone, if we find the kind of the main center of gravity over at Snake Lake, then we're going to park the drills on those and go. So I think the first piece phase one, do the survey across. Phase two, find the centers, the gold centers, and park rigs and drill, right? And we're clearly we're going to go out and find out, work on Percival. Certainly are. Are we going to go out and find what's going on beyond that, doing more field work beyond that first kind of Kim Cook ring around Eau Claire? For sure we are, right? We're going to be unpackaging it continuously for the foreseeable future. The other aspect too that just came to my mind is, when we could have gone to Eau Claire and just did plain Jane exploration, right? Just follow all the obvious geometries and add things, right? So that's a plus sign, right? But instead, we were looking for the multiple sign, right? And I think you see that with Snake Lake, right? So we didn't think that was going to be there. We thought that was going to be a small surface satellite pit for some type of future operation, but we know now that it's not.
Okay.
Right, so it's very interesting for us. So when you're going from little adders to multipliers, right, and if Percival starts to kind of build out and get some gravity of its own, that's a multiplier, right?
What amount of resources, and let's give it also reserves, would you say is needed to really move then into production? I mean, by now it looks already fantastic. You have fantastic grades. That looks all good. Would you say like 2.5, 3 million ounces? And then, because that would imply a 10-year mine life.
Yeah. So I think it's a risk question, and I think it's a market timing question. And so, if Eau Claire is what it was with the PEA, and it's not, to be clear, but if it was, then you could build that right now, right? It's 80,000 ounces a year. You'd make a lot of money. It'd be a small 10-year operation, and it'd be highly profitable. So it's exciting. But you have to take on a lot of just business risk, right? You've got to finance the building of that mine. There's a lot of social things that you have to do. There's execution, there's operating risk, safety, all the stuff. So it doesn't matter if you're building an 80,000 ounce per year mine or a 800,000 ounce per year mine. all of the risks are the same. There's a bit more financial risk on a bigger operation, but it's all the same. So we're saying it's not it. The other thing too is jurisdiction, right? So if you're in Quebec, certainly in the James Bay, where the government's saying we will pay for it. Let's go. You need a road, we'll pay for the road. You want a permit? Here's your permit. Right, Quebec is one of the best jurisdictions to build a mine for a reason. It's one of the best places. I mean, it takes us, days to get an exploration permit. It's unbelievable. This place, right? So that's another aspect. So if you're going to have a mine and you're going to take on that risk, then just go big or go bigger, right? And keep it within reason. You don't want you don't want $1 billion build, because we know how those work. But we want something in between. That's going to be highly profitable and tight, but nice. But yeah, I think if you want to get up to 200,000 ounces a year for 10 years, then yeah, you need a 2 in front of it, right? The other thing is timing, because it takes capital to advance mineral exploration projects, right? And so, in good markets, when gold's doing well, a lot of exploration gets funded, right? A lot of that. A lot of the big capital coming into our sector is going further down and further down and further down, right? And so, it's not going to be difficult to raise money for drilling high grade gold in Canada in this market right now. Not at all.
Okay, super. Then there is a question maybe for Michael Henrichsen. Did the level of excitement switch from down plunge extension to Snake Lake? What actually happened to target panel C?
Yeah, good question. We drilled. Well, we drilled target panel C, thinking that the Eau Claire structure could have gold mineralization the whole kilometer away from the resource. We drilled it. The Eau Claire structure was weak, but then we got surprised by 0.5 meter and 94 grams at depth on the Snake Lake horizon. And that was, for us, that was a bit of a game changer, because, we had that initial indication over at panel B, that there was something happening at Snake Lake, but then to let the drill go, to be patient, to take the risk and keep going into the Snake Lake horizon, that paid for us, because, now we're talking about an 850 meter vertically beneath the historical drilling. So that's what happened to panel C. Panel C isn't part of Eau Claire. That's why we call it Snake Lake Deeps now. But that's the way we look at it. Okay, so you could have shut the hole down early. Okay, the horizon at Eau Claire doesn't look good. We said, no way, keep going, keep drilling. Let us know what happens at Snake Lake. And that was what paid at the end of the day. So, that's, I think, very typical of this group. We're willing to take that additional risk. And once you commit, you have to stay the course. You can't get scared,
Mm-hmm.
And I think luck favors the brave, truthfully.
Always. Okay, then we have two shareholders with short questions. I put them together. Lots of future drill holes being discussed. How much dollars are available for drilling at this point? Meaning also, what is the financing situation for the company? Are the 50,000 meters completely financed? And the second question is, that's obviously a shareholder. When do we start at CB? That's meaning Committee Bay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll let Mike answer Committee Bay. Right now we have about 8 million Canadian, which is good to cover the 50,000 meters, right? Going forward for Committee Bay, going forward for whatever we want to do in BC, and the remainder of next year, and to really prepare for what we want to do at Eau Claire in the fall. Right? I mean, clearly with these good results, we probably want to add drills, right? It's exciting, right? This is we have 2 drills going now. We probably want to go to 3 or 4 drills probably by the end of the year. I mean, this is where our level of excitement is. You saw a couple of weeks ago we put out a base shelf prospectus, right? So this means that we can go and be very smart with how we're going to do financing going forward.
That was right? $200 million, right? The prospectus.
Well, yeah.
The maximum.
Yeah. Well, that's the maximum. I mean, no one's going to go out and raise $200 million at once, right? So the idea with the prospectus is the fact that when we go to raise money normally, and we bring it, say we want to bring in some, a special cornerstone investor. Typically, if it's a private placement, they have to hold those shares for 4 months, right? And a lot of times, many institutions just can't participate. Right, and when they come in, of course, those institutions support the share price as it moves up, right? Because they're buying and everything as they come in. You get them kind of seeded in, and then they're moving with us as we continue to buy as management and as shareholders. And so I think going forward we're going to be very, very smart with that, right? I think it's timing dependent. I also think it's price dependent, right? I mean, the last financing we did was at $2, right? And we would love to get back to that level and do a financing at that level, right? And so if we're put in a position where we have to do a financing below $2, it'll obviously be small, right? And it will obviously be very targeted to a program.
Okay. You want to answer the Committee Bay shortly?
Certainly, I can tell you. Obviously, we're looking at getting into Committee Bay this summer. Obviously, there's a lot of things that we have to do vis-a-vis COVID, and so we're in the planning phases of just making sure we can actually execute the program in a safe manner. So at this stage, we're working towards it. We haven't completely defined it yet. But again, it's just the special circumstances that we find ourselves in with respect to COVID at the moment, really.
Okay. In regards to financing, what is the maturity of the warrants and the options? Because I just calculated it, that would bring you approximately $22 to $23 million easily in. I know it's a higher strike price than today's share price, but gold at 2,000, it's a different world.
Yeah, I mean, look at if gold going up and our share price going up with it, and with good results, then yeah, I mean that's good hard dollar financing if those can come in. But you can't. The problem is you can't plan a business on that.
No, of course not. That's why I was asking, what is the maturity on it? Is it still a year, 2 years? I mean, this might be some extra cash, which would help to do, different adventures, I would call it.
Yeah. I think there's some in October, and then most of it's next year.
Okay. So it's quite close.
Yeah, I think it's good timing, to be honest.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a valid point, especially when we all believe that the second half of this year is going to be even better for gold.
Oh, yeah. My target is, by the way, 2,400 for the second half, but don't tell anybody.
I'm going to put that on our website, Johan.
Yeah, please do so.
I like that target.
Yeah, me too.
Johan says.
Yes, exactly. A question from my side also, Homestake Ridge. I remember Homestake Ridge as a very interesting project with a very good, I think it was PEA. And I remember also, and you said it in the beginning of the presentation, you have Hekla, Dolly Varden there. I think those guys are also, have restarted to be very busy. Would it make sense to do something with them together, maybe, or to combine operations here?
I think if you look at this is the textbook example. When you look at various camps and trends where there's multiple parties, like to the investor's benefit overall, and from a high level strategic, again, corporate development point of view, I think the answer generally to that is yeah. Like ultimately, given the long term, right, these things are probably better put together with a good team that can finance it. It's got some size and it's exciting, right? There's a lot of dominant scale play in there and everything else. Yeah. I would say, but I mean that's true there. It's true for other parts of the Golden Triangle, but it's also true for anywhere else where things are, right? A lot of times when you have multiple parties together with a group, guys don't want to do a deal, right? I mean, a lot of times you see, especially here in Northern Ontario, here's head frame, because people just don't talk to each other, right? And we're obviously a group that can be dynamic. We're obviously very dynamic with our exploration. We're very good in business. And so we do, like we talk to people all the time about what is the best way for us as professionals, as investors ourselves, to move things forward, right? Your question also comes up from a high level strategy perspective when you think about financing too, right? We get a question like, how are you going to fund all three of these? Well, it's easy. We just raise money and we drill all three, right? I mean, it is straightforward, right? I mean, and that's if you like the optionality part of Fury. Not everyone likes that. Like a lot of people with their capital, if they're going to buy a mining stock, they say, no, I want you to focus on one thing, and I want you to do that well.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And so so far out of the gate, we've been focused on trying to pack as much opportunity in per share as we can. I mean that's been our goal, right? I mean we're drilling at Eau Claire. Imagine. What could that do to our valuation if we're drilling at two projects at once? All of the news and interesting things coming out, right? So we have yet to demonstrate that this group can actually go and drill two things at once. And I'm super excited for that. Or drill three projects at once. I'm super excited for that as well, right? But back to your question on Homestake, clearly the Homestake trend, right? So Dolly's going to be very, very active this summer. As we know, we're going to be very active there this summer. And Hekla, from what we're hearing, is going to have a big program out there this summer as well, right? So stay tuned for BC because I think it's going to be interesting. Okay,
super, fantastic. And by the way, we are men. We can easily do three things at the same time. That's for sure. Not only women. All right, then a super serious question to Michael Henrichsen from an Italian shareholder.
All right.
You are supervising so many great exploration programs towards 4 companies. When do you sleep?
Good question. Well, I think the key here is the great people that I have the privilege of working with. Truthfully, I think it's one of those things where, here at Fury, I can't say enough about how good our team is. I'm a spokesman for them, really, at the end of the day. And this is the lesson that I learned from my bosses at Newmont. You have to let people be creative. You have to let them do their thing. You have to let them take the risk. And I think what I do is I provide them that room, and some strategy, like what are we trying to accomplish as a group here for Fury right now? That big survey, that extra look, what's our strategy? How do we get this towards that 2 million ounce mark? And it's a balance, right? So I think at the end of the day, as I said, we're blessed here at Fury with guys like Brian Atkinson, David Rivard, Andy Orr, the Quebec people on the ground. They're awesome, and so when you're privileged to work with good people, you can do what I'm doing, right? I mean, I think that's it at the end of the day.
Honestly, it's exactly the same what I have with my team. Total privilege to have such great people on board. Definitely. This is how I understand it also. Fantastic. Question about Eleanor South joint venture. Would that be something you could imagine in the future that you will monetize that to fund other exploration or even production? So meaning that, your joint venture partners are stepping in and say, hey, come on, guys, give it to us.
Yeah, I think so. I think ESJV for us is a non-core asset, right? Like let's just be honest. Let's just be honest, right? But because we're the operator of the ESJV, right? It is our professional responsibility to advance the project, and we will because we're professionals, right? So it's about doing the right thing, right? So if we thought it's a distraction, we want to focus on Eau Claire. That's really not the right way to do it, right? We have two other partners that are relying on us, right, as a professional group to move this thing along and obviously to build value, right? And we're going to do that. So Mike and Brian have done some preliminary work on it. We're doing up basically a summer program. We want to get it to the drill stage for probably over the winter, and obviously Newmont and Azimut are very, very happy with that, right? I think that Newmont, if I could talk about them for a little bit, between us, I think that Newmont is at a bit of a stage where what do we do with Eleanor, right? I think everyone on the ground there is getting a bit of a sense that are they going to move? They're very neutral so far, right? Do we want to move that asset forward? Or do we, or are they going to sell it at some point in the future? We don't really know, right? And so, the little birds on the ground just basically say that it's kind of status quo at Eleanor now. We're not seeing a lot of regional exploration, and in our, and of course they're a major shareholder, right? So they own 6.5% of Fury, right? So we have a very good relation. Mike obviously has his relationship still with them. So does Brian. And so do I, and we keep them up to date as any major shareholder, right? But it's really been the conversation's really not. It's just pretty neutral so far on what they want to do. So at the moment, I would say they're probably not buyers, and I think they have their own reasons for that.
Okay, super. Just to wrap that up a little bit as we are approaching the hour, would you say, if you look at all your projects, Eau Claire, absolutely top main focus, 2025 in production. Homestake Ridge, second, because lots of optionality, and Committee Bay, the super bright future.
I think so.
That was a very short answer. I love that.
Yeah. No, I mean that's the pipeline of project development maturity. Right, but sometimes it doesn't have to be the pipeline of what can impact the share price, right? Like if we go up to Committee Bay and put 2 holes through the next Meliadine deposit, I think we all know what that can do to our share price, right? So it's relative importance with respect to value of our stock could be anyway. Right, and it's really just about where's the gold context? Where are we drilling? What does it mean? Did we expect it? Are we demonstrating growth? Because again, it's Fury being able to do 2 things, right? We want to have that steady ounce addition at current resources, but we're also half of the program is drilling into fresh new things, right? Not everybody does that. We're doing that on purpose, right?
Super. Yeah. Super last question. Would you say, or could you imagine that Committee Bay, your natural fit would be Agnico Eagle? Or could this something be for Newmont also? Because I think Agnico Eagle is the master in the Nunavut area, right?
Yeah, that's for sure. It's a very short list, right? Because people have to have the skills to be able to work in that part of the world, right? So I'm very lucky with Mike and Brian and the team to be able to have the skills to actually do proper exploration up there, and oftentimes at larger scale, right? We have our own rigs, right? We have 3 camps. We have our own rigs. We have all the relationships in place in order to do the access, right? But it's not for everyone, right? So Agnico would be an obvious buyer, but listen, they have their own regional land position and they have interesting things there too. So there would have to be just more than, hey, we're here, in order to do the acquisition, right? There are other groups up there that have deposits, right? You would have to have a new mover come in, right? I think over the last few years, you've seen a lot of the Australian operators come into Canada because I think that they believe that we haven't really done a good job over the last 10 years. Right. They've come in and they're dominating Red Lake, which being from Red Lake, I'm glad they are moving it ahead and giving it a new lease on life. But I think we're going to see more activity from the Australians for sure.
Super, perfect. The hour is gone. Just let me double check that I did not miss something here. That looks quite good. Yep. Oh yeah, there's one question I forgot. Sorry for that. Fury Gold Mine's share price is nailed down. Is there a lot of short selling in the stock, or what do you think is the reason why the share price is stuck? Just short answer, please.
We did have some early shorting out of the gate. I think we're past that. There might be some now, but I don't think that's the main thing. I think the main reason is just really the rate of us putting news out, right? The business continues to get better every day. Right, we technically unpackaging it just gets better every day. The situation gets better every day, and the team works better every day. Right, and so nothing with what we're doing is broken. Right, so there's got to be something that's external that's kind of working with the share price. Right, so if it's ready to go, right, then I think it's just us being more newsy and creating our own momentum, going out of it. And I think that starts with news. I think we saw over the last. We saw what the last 3 news releases have done for us, right? But again, Fury is range bound, and I think it's just just more and more making people believers. Like you see what we see, Johan. Okay, and a lot of people now are starting to see. Right, we've done a lot of marketing over the last 2 weeks, particularly in Boston, and then BMO in Toronto here took us for 2 really, really good, probably 2 of the most fun marketing days with a lot of tier 1 institutions, and they all get it and they all understand, and they're looking at it going like, wow, this is quite an attractive valuation, and they're being polite, and we're saying like, yeah, we know, right? And it's just like, when are we going to see more news? Like, it's coming.
Super. And I'm pretty sure the stock price will change quite soon. That's also for sure. Because under valuation, you can have it for a certain amount of time, but all of a sudden, somebody realizes it, and then the game restarts, and that's a good thing. Well, thank you very much. We are at the end of this virtual live roadshow. Mike Timmins and Michael Henrichsen, thanks for a great hour and a great presentation, answering all the questions. I wish you both very well. Have a great day and also a good weekend. I know there's a holiday here in Europe on some countries, so probably not all of the investors joined us, but they can watch the replay tomorrow without any problems. And the replay should be tomorrow by 12 o'clock, be online at Commodity TV and YouTube. Thanks and all the best to you. And of course, bye-bye to Canada.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that was our virtual online roadshow with Fury Gold Mines, and you heard it. The stock is quite cheap, but this is what we like when we want to buy stock, right? We don't want to buy high. We want to buy when it's cheap, and I think Mike and Michael, they have really elaborated and evaluated and presented the last hour extremely well why this stock price will go higher in the future. And to be honest, my target is at least here a 3 to a 5 bagger for the next 2 years, maybe 3 years, but also there can be much more, because as I said, the gold price will rise significantly higher. And what Michael Henrichsen and the team drilled out so far is really outstanding. A company has a lot of potential with those 3 fantastic projects, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna see 2025 a 200,000 ounce gold producer here. Also, don't forget, over 25,000 meters are still to be drilled, and also a lot of meters are still in the lab. So I have a very good feeling that we will get a lot of news out within the next weeks and months here. So thank you very much for watching us. Thank you very much for joining us here. And I look forward to see you all back on Wednesday next week at 5 o'clock with Kuya Silver. Thanks and bye-bye from Switzerland. And please stay healthy. All the best.